Gabriel, for those prospective investors that are in the audience who may not be as familiar with Versus, can you just provide us with a brief overview of the business and the vision behind the strategy?
Yeah, well, I think everyone agrees that AI is positioned to change the world. One of the big challenges that we see today that Versus is solving is that really current systems just aren't built for enterprise and industrial use cases. This is why most Fortune 500s actually haven't deployed AI into real world use cases. It's actually hard to even think of one outside of the sort of generative AI examples. The reason for this is simple. AIs today have been trained on public data. They're great general purpose tools, but enterprises have business specific problems and they need AIs that they can train on their own data that run in their own domain. Why? Because they need to be reliable and accurate on the data they've been trained on, right? And today, LLMs, they're confidently, error prone. They make mistakes. And we've seen this from LLM hallucinations when McDonald's, tried to use them to take over and charging people $200 for chicken nuggets, to autonomous cars like Waymo's crashing, trying to avoid plastic bags in the street. These models hallucinate. That lack of reliability is not acceptable in enterprise and industrial use cases for the real world. Secondly, they're unexplainable. They train them all at once. They're giant black boxes, and you can't really trust them for highly regulated environments like supply chain and medical and financial prediction. And then they're wildly inefficient. We've all seen the headlines from the nuclear power plants required to sort of train these things. The reality is, for a lot of use cases, you need AI that can run on small devices, sensors, robots, or be hosted in an enterprise's environment, not some massive $100 billion data center. And the last thing, which people are shocked to hear, is that AI actually doesn't learn once it's been deployed. So this means that they pre-train them. In fact, GPT stands for generative pre-trained transformer, all at once on as much data as possible with as many computers as possible, NVIDIA chips, and as much energy. And then they hope that it's captured everything that it may ever have to see. But this is why we see those sort of reliability issues, because inevitably the real world keeps changing and you need AI that can change with you as a company. And that's what Versus has done. We have a vision to build AI designed to work in the real world, for enterprise and industrial use cases, which we think is the larger slice of the pie here. And so Versus has developed a new kind of AI platform. We call this Genius. The idea behind Genius is that businesses need their own domain experts trained on their data that run in their domain that help them to make better decisions in their business, in their industry. And so there's a new class of enterprise AI agents that generate superior predictions. They're not just generating content. They need to generate really good predictions from the data in order to help businesses make better decisions. And so we don't really refer to ourselves as an AI company, although we're certainly in the class. We call ourselves a cognitive computing company because we've developed our AI agents to work more like the brain. So they learn in real time. They can adapt. We don't have that reliability problem because they're learning from the data from the enterprise itself. They're wildly efficient. Like your brain uses 20 watts, not gigawatts of power, right? That means they're designed to run at the edge or in an enterprise environment. And this solves that reliability issue, that explainability issue, the efficiency issue. And finally, the holy grail, this new class of AI agents learns in real time. That means as the world changes and your business needs to adapt, Genius adapts with you. We believe that, from a public market perspective, we are the only company in the space that's delivering this sort of next generation, entirely new class of artificial intelligence designed for the enterprise from scratch.
Maybe we can just dig a bit more into the specific unique advantages that your AI has over competitors in the industry.
I think right off the bat, this idea that most large language models, generative AI, have been trained on public data. They were sort of always designed for a consumer use case, right? Low stakes, consumer driven, creative development, content, text, their general purpose. It's a bit like a general practitioner, but businesses need a surgeon, right? And some of them need a heart surgery and some need, brain surgery and whatever that is, you need that sort of, that specific capability that allows you to build an AI agent from your data. So one of the first big distinctions is this is all about what we call domain specific AI, as opposed to general purpose AI. And so, if you are if you're a bank, if you are a financial organization trying to predict, where you should you invest in large large sums into more stocks or more bonds. We just announced one of the top financial firms in the world that just signed on as one of our early customers here toward enterprise license. And that's one of the challenges they're trying to solve. They have access to all of the state-of-the-art AI models, the best data scientists and quants that the industry has. And yet there are problems that you need to solve that Genius is very good at that come from learning from their data, not just the public history of all trades. So you can combine these two together. And then there's one other real magic secret that Genius provides that the state-of-the-art sort of general purpose models don't. It's that as the data changes, Genius can adapt, right? And what that means is this: all data today for most AIs, you have to clean it, you have to filter it, and the AI is 100% certain about its answer. This is what we call hallucination. It just says something that's
Okay.
not true, right? But in any real expert that you talk to will also tell you what they don't know. That ability to model their own uncertainty, if you will, is a part of what our neuroscience-backed approach does. And this comes from the work from our chief scientist, the most cited neuroscientist in the world, Professor Carl Friston, who has cracked the code on the underlying science of how the brain allows us, our children, and in fact, all biological systems to learn and adapt in real time. And its ability to actually identify what you don't know and learn that. This gives you something that gets smarter and smarter as it goes, as hopefully we do as we age and learn more, but doesn't require being trained on a billion data points. So we just gave an example of this where we demonstrated last Monday our latest breakthrough model called Axiom, which beat Google's top of the line model in a series of 10 different tests where we showed 60% better results. It was 39 times cheaper to run, and it was 400 times smaller, right? This is a
Yeah,
breakthrough
congrats.
akin to the smartphone
Yeah.
for the mobile device. It's a completely different approach, and sometimes it takes outsiders to do it. So these are the differentiators, I think, that are really critical for us today. And that enterprises are looking for that simply don't exist in the current technology stack. So I think Versus has a very unique position on the field, but I think we're in the right position on the field for what the field needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned being engaged by that financial services company. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about any significant milestones or recent updates that you think would be of interest to your investors.
Yeah, I think our current flock of investors that have been backing us for a long time saw the vision early, but as the AI wave kind of came, it became clear to us that there was a hole big enough to drive a truck through, but no one could see it. And that hole was that you've got a set of problems that the current tools can't solve, and that has everything to do with enterprises that need to basically build their own models. And so Genius was designed as a platform for them to be able to do that. So ironically, and I know it looks like this was part of a master plan, but several years worth of advanced research all came to fruition, including timing, go-to-market strategy, timing, and signing up enterprise customers, all within the last few weeks. So we launched our Genius product into the market, and we've got customers we're converting from betas and new large enterprise customers, trying to solve problems that cost them tens or hundreds of millions of dollars that today's tools don't help them solve effectively. That's one big milestone. The next one was demonstrating this sort of race against Google DeepMind, where you could think of them as a Porsche or Ferrari, and we're the Tesla. We've built an entirely new AI, with an entirely new sort of architecture, and we've just shown that we can beat them on a quarter-mile sprint, albeit 7 times faster and 39 times more efficient. And then there's something else we've been working on that's a little nerdy here, but for 5 years we've been working with the IEEE. They're one of the largest technical standards bodies in the world. They standardize Wi-Fi, they standardize Bluetooth, and we've developed these underlying standards for AI and robotics systems to be able to work together. So level one, can you get an AI agent that is better, faster, cheaper, more explainable than today's models that are smaller and can get designed for 100 billion devices, not $100 billion data center, right? Yes, we can do that. Can you get customers that are flagship, blue chip customers that you're solving major problems for them that they can't get those solutions anywhere else in the market? Yes, we're demonstrating that. We demonstrated Axiom, outperforming Google. And the final thing, there was this spatial web standards. right? That the IEEE has been now ratified. It took 5 years. There were 300 different organizations across public and private markets that are working together globally to ratify these standards. What this gets you is something really interesting. You've got Genius, and which is kind of like the brain, almost like the new computer for the intelligence age. And then now you've got these standards that allow an internet of agents, meaning that now these agents can communicate and share information in a very secure and private way that gives humans control over what AIs are communicating about, whether they're in devices, whether they're two cars, whether they're two robots that need to coordinate in a logistics environment in a warehouse, right? Or whether it's your heart monitor that needs to coordinate with your smartwatch that needs to send information to your doctor. Suddenly there's a new toolkit that will allow that adoption to scale into what we think of as a sort of internet of intelligent agents. And this has been Versus vision all along, not building one super agent that learns everything that hopefully will be good for anything, but rather agents that can learn from anything that could be good for everything as they start to grow and compound together. So this has been a huge month for us. And even the last week was, sort of a year's worth of work all coming to fruition. And I think that marks this inflection point for the company that we're very excited about, which is, our next step here as we move into the future.
Yeah, as you said, an exciting time where things are lining. And for investors who've been with you, I'm sure they've been excited to watch all of that come to fruition. Maybe we could turn a little bit in thinking forward in terms of strategic plans and perhaps any future developments that you might have in store that you can tell us a little bit about.
Well, our main focus now is driving adoption and revenue growth, right? So
Right.
we were in a long cycle. Can you develop a new approach, a new class of AI? This is, again, very similar to what Apple had to do with the smartphone or what Tesla had to do with electric vehicles. Sometimes you got to be the outsider that built something entirely from scratch. That's the sort of IP strategy that we think has been really valuable for us. We are now converting beta customers and signing new enterprise deals. We're making those announcements in real time here. The product is licensed as a sort of platform as a service with recurring enterprise revenue. That means that, we're not focused on OpenAI, like getting 100 million users to pay $10 a month. We're looking at companies that can, sign 6 and 7 figure annual contracts. So from there, you need several hundred or, a few thousand customers total to be able to get to something like $100 million in revenue, which is a very good, line for a successful software as a service platform like us. Our focus actually now is on quick takeoff. How can we show where there's real product market fit, where we're solving important problems that can scale that revenue and that adoption quickly? Things like financial forecasting predictions for large financial institutions. Things like the ability to drive advertising and marketing technology. What's the right ad to show somebody? What's the right product recommendation? Right where money and decision making needs to happen. That's our sort of sweet spot, that last mile. Things again like fraud and risk mitigation. And of course, there are some smart city projects with robots and autonomous cars that are really exciting. We think these are big tickets, but they're a little slower burn. So our focus is really on those quick takeoff industries that we're seeing traction after a year of testing with different partners across multiple industries. We think this is a sort of sweet spot. So expect to see a lot more from there. At the same time, we're rolling out new features based on real customer feedback, not just our design ideas. We're increasing, the product speed. We're increasing the ability to adopt. A lot of these models, they have to be sort of developed by a data scientist or machine learning expert inside, let's say, a large Fortune 500. That process typically for equivalent, AI might take them months. Our goal is to get that down to minutes. We're already seeing it now in terms of days or weeks. And that time to value is something we will continue to shrink until it's almost unnoticeable. That's really going to help us scale adoption. At the end of the day, we really believe that we're building a new kind of infrastructure for intelligent agents. And we've taken the sort of longer, slower path, but we think it's more applicable to the bigger piece of the pie, that sort of enterprise and industrial scale opportunities. It doesn't require us to have hundreds of millions of customers, a handful of significant flagships and a few other boutique AI firms like Soothsayer, who we announced on Monday, who validated our Axiom results. These are these boutique AI firms that build AI models for companies like FedEx or DHL or Dun and Bradstreet. So these are the sort of channel partners that we're also looking to work with in order to scale. But yeah, it's all about adoption and revenue growth, over the course of the next handful of quarters here as we really transition completely into this operational phase of the company.
Excellent. And are there any upcoming catalysts that would be really important for the business that you want to talk about?
Um, I mean, ironically, many of the catalysts we've been waiting on for quite some time have all just recently occurred in the span of a few weeks.
True.
There are certainly more surprises coming, but not anything I'd love to telegraph here today.
Sure.
I think everyone hopefully will be pleasantly surprised at the things that are on the docket now.
Yeah, and very good context around the revenue rollout and the plans there towards the business. So maybe just finally, from an investor's perspective, for prospective investors who haven't been, an existing shareholder, why might they want to be looking now? We've talked about a bunch of good news. We've talked about the progress. You've been on our Cboe platform trading now for 3 years. Why is this a good time to perhaps, for those prospective investors, think about picking up versus AI on their watch list and considering investing?
Well, I mean, the headline is the AI wave is here, right? The
Yeah.
challenge is enterprises can't get on it, and Versus is the on-ramp to that because we solve the reliability issue, the explainability issue, the efficiency issue, and the ability to adapt to new data as it comes. And I think as a company, we're at a critical inflection point where most of the risk is frankly behind us and the scale is in front of us, right? Because really the most challenging part has largely been done, right? The tech has been validated. We've got the right team. The product has launched and customers are paying. I think this is the market is also catching up to our thesis. You're starting to see headlines over and over and over again. Big one from just a couple of days ago from Apple saying large language models can't reason. What does that mean? They can't be accurate enough to be
Mm.
reliable enough to be deployed in enterprise and industrial use cases. This is partially why you haven't seen something with Siri come out because Apple will not put out a subpar product, even though the rest of the hype bubble around LLMs is very exciting. We've made our investments into R&D and IP, but now we're focused on growth, licensing, and adoption. And ultimately, we've demonstrated we have the team, we have the right technology. And then the real amazing part right now is that the market has been able to test the alternatives and found them coming up short, which means we've also, I believe, nailed timing. The rest is just traction, and that's the road in front of us. And so we're excited, to share that journey with you at Cboe. You guys have been great to us the whole time, and of course, we welcome any new investors that want to take this wave with us. We think we've got, the best position on the wave, and we think it's exciting days ahead.
That's fantastic. Well, we thank you so much for sharing your insights and your vision behind Versus and where you're headed. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in and submitted questions. If we didn't get to those, we'll certainly respond and answer those and get you a response back. Thank you for joining us. And if you're interested in learning more about Versus, please do be sure to visit versus.ai and stay connected with us at Cboe as we continue to spotlight innovative companies like yours. So thank you so much, Gabriel, for being with us.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, everyone, for joining.